Hello, good day. So for today's discussion, we will have the continuation of Module 1 or the Introduction to Organic Chemistry. Okay, so we're already on the types of bonds, wherein the last one is the coordinate or the dative bond. So in Orchem, atoms are held together by different types of bonds. And the three types of bonds were already discussed last week during our face-to-face discussion. So this last type of bond that we have is the coordinate or dative. This is one of the special type of bond. So this bond is formed when one atom donates both electrons needed to form a covalent bond, while the other atom simply accepts them. So a good example for this one is the formation of the ammonium ion or the NH4 positive, and then the nitrogen atoms will donate a lone pair of electron to a hydrogen ion. Therefore, you'll have the forming of the coordinate bond. Okay? Copy? Still under characteristic of property of covalent bond. So we have the bond length. So it was discussed also last week what is bond length. So the bond length is defined as the distance between the nuclei of two bonded atoms, wherein the unit of this one is in angstrom. Okay? So we have discussed last week that the bond length will depend how far is the compound from the nucleus. Okay? So for example, we have the carbon to carbon single bond. So this carbon to carbon is on the outer shell. Okay? So it is the longest. Okay? Or it is longer compared to the double bond and to the triple bond. While for the double bond carbon to carbon, it is on the middle or to the before the last or orbital. Therefore it is shorter in terms of the bond length, and the shortest in terms of bond length is the triple bond carbon to carbon. Okay, next, still under the characteristic property of covalent bond, and we have the bond angle. So bond angle is defined as the angle that is formed between two covalent bonds that share a common atom. Although atoms are constantly moving, an average bond angle can be determined. Okay, so through what? How can you determine the measurement of the angle? We have different experimental techniques such as the X-ray crystallography, electron diffraction, and spectroscopy. Okay, so kindly take note of that. Okay, and as an example of the bond angle, for example, we have the water molecule or the H2O. So the bond angle is approximately on 104.5 degrees. Okay, and it is influenced by the presence of the lone pairs of the oxygen. Okay, still under the characteristic of property of covalent bond. So we have the bond energy in here and the bond breaking. So let's go first with the bond energy. So what is bond energy? It is the amount of energy that is required to break a bond. So the higher the bond energy, the stronger and the more stable the bond is. So for example, triple bonds require more energy to break than double bonds. And double bonds require more energy than single bonds. Copy? So for the bond breaking, we have two types naman. We have the hemolysis and the heterolysis. So in hemolysis, the shared electrons are divided equally between two atoms. And as a result of that, free radicals are formed. Okay? And for the heterolysis, both electrons from the covalent bond move to a one atom. And as a result of that, there's the formation of a cation and an ion. Okay? Still under bond breaking, we have the hemolysis. So as you can see from the reaction that is in the slide, we have for the reactant, we have the AB molecule. And for the byproduct, we have the A plus B as your free radical byproduct. So what happened in here is that there's the hemolytic cleavage that is happening, wherein it is very common in free radical substitution reaction. So how to know if they are if it is free radical substitution reaction? You have to know the classification of your elements. And this hemolysis is usually happening if the elements are alkenes and halogens. So you must know how to distinguish your compounds and your elements for easier classification, okay? Whether it is hemolysis or heterolysis. Still under bond breaking, but on the heterolysis, okay? So it was already defined a while ago what is heterolysis. So let's just focus on the example on this slide, okay? So as you can see from the reaction that we have for the reactant the AB molecule, and for the byproduct you have the anion and the cation. So the difference of the heterolysis from the hemolysis is that the byproduct of the two, okay, it's free radical for the hemolysis, and for the heterolysis your byproduct is an ion and cation, or the negative charge and the positively charged, okay. So for this one you have the hydrochloric acid as your reactant for this one. So when the hydrogen chlorine bond breaks heterolytically, the hydrogen becomes H positive and the chlorine becomes Cl negative. Or it is an ion and cation by its byproduct, okay, or the product of the reaction. Still under characteristic property of covalent bond. So we have the bond order, polar bond, and nonpolar bond. So when we say bond order, it refers to the number of covalent bonds between two atoms. So for example, single bond has a 1 bond order, double bond has a 2 bond order, and triple bond has a 3 bond order. And for the nonpolar bond, electrons are shared equally. Well, for the polar bonds, electrons are shared unequally. Okay? So, for example, you have hydrogen bonded with hydrogen. Therefore, it is nonpolar because they are same elements that shares same electrons. So, therefore, they are nonpolar. Okay? And another example for the polar bond, we have the hydrogen bonded with chlorine. So since they are not same element, they do not share same electrons. That's why they are considered as polar bond. Okay? Copy. Characteristic property of covalent bond, we have the electronegativity. So, electronegativity is defined as the ability of an atom to attract electrons towards itself. So, for example, for the bonds between identical atoms like fluorine bonded with fluorine or hydrogen bonded with hydrogen in single bonds, they are then nonpolar because they share same electrons since they are same elements. But for the bonds such as the H2O or water and NH3, they are polar bonds since they share different number of electrons since they are not same elements, okay? Because electrons are attracted more strongly by one atom, okay? Still under the characteristic property of covalent bond. So as you can see on this slide, we have the strength and polarity of the bond. And it depends on the electronegativity difference between the atoms. Okay? And as you can see, that is the trend in terms of the electronegativity. And if you will observe the trend, the greater the electronegativity difference results into a more polar bond. Next, we have this table of electronegativity values. So we have already defined what is electronegativity, and it is the ability of the atom to attract electrons in the chemical bond. So if you can see the table, across the periodic table, the electronegativity increases from left to right and it decreases from top to bottom. For example, we have the fluorine wherein it has a electronegativity value of 4. Therefore, it has a highest electronegativity while the alkali metals have the lowest values. And for the nonmetals, they are generally have higher electronegativity than metals. And the larger electronegativity difference between atoms results into a more polar bond, while the smaller difference leads to a nonpolar covalent bond. And the electronegativity values help predict what is the bond type, bond polarity, and molecular behavior of the atom. Okay? And also the color that is being used in there is used to distinguish the values or the range of the electronegativity. Okay? For example, for the one value, okay, so they've used that dark color green. So these are usually the metals or they have the low value of electronegativity. Okay. While those electronegativity with higher value are the one in color of light orange 2.5 to 2.9 and the darker orange with the values of 3 to 4. Okay, so those nonmetals like the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and chlorine are with the highest value of electronegativity. Next, let's proceed with the types of orbital overlapping and their orbital diagrams. Okay, so the first one we have the S bonded with S overlapping or the H molecule. So for this one, it occurs when the two S orbitals overlap directly. So for example, in the formation of the hydrogen molecule or the H2, the one s orbital of two hydrogen atoms overlap to form a sigma bond. Okay? Another type of orbital overlapping, we have the sp overlapping. So for this one, it occurs when the s orbital overlaps with the p orbital. So for example, in hydrogen fluoride, HF. Okay? So the hydrogen s orbital overlaps with fluorine p orbital. Okay? Another type of orbital overlapping, we have the p overlapping. Okay, so this overlapping happens when the two p orbitals overlap with each other. So for example, we have the bond between two chlorine atoms. So Cl bonded with Cl is formed by a p overlap. Okay. Next, let's have the hybridization. So when we say hybridization, it is the process of mixing atomic orbitals to form a new hybrid orbitals of equal energy. So this concept explains how the carbon forms four equivalent bonds. And this concept was proposed by Linus Pauling in the year 1931. And as mentioned a while ago during the definition of this term hybridization, it forms four equivalent tetrahedral bonds. Okay. Next, let's discuss the different conditions for the hybridization. So I'll just summarize the four, okay? So kindly take note, okay? So the first one will be only valence shell orbital are involved, and for the second one, the orbitals must have nearly equal energy. And for the third one, electron promotion is not essential. And fourth will be both must have half-filled and filled orbitals may participate. So for the hybridization, just kindly remember how we do the SPDF process, and you can already answer these conditions for hybridization, okay? Next, let's have the hybridization. So this image explains what is hybridization, wherein it is the process where the atomic orbitals like 2s and 2p of the same atoms are combined to form a new hybrid orbitals. And this hybridization explains how the atoms rearrange their orbitals to form a strong directional bonds and predictable molecular shapes. Next, let's have this image wherein it illustrates the sp3 hybridization. So as you can see on the left side are the atomic orbitals of carbon. 1 2s orbital and 3 2p orbital. Okay? So during the hybridization, this orbital mix together to form a 4 equivalent sp3 hybrid orbitals. And the 4 sp3 orbitals are arranged in tetrahedral geometry to minimize the electron repulsion. And each of this sp3 orbital has a one large lobe and one small lobe, making it effective for forming a strong sigma bonds. So in summary, this diagram shows that the carbon forms a 4 tetrahedrally arranged sp3 hybrid orbitals that explains the shape and the bonds of molecules like methane or the CH4. Still under hybridization, so for this one, we have the sigma bond and the pi bond, okay? So we have defined a while ago that covalent bond is being formed when the 1s orbital of one hydrogen atom overlap with another orbital. But for the sigma bond, it is formed by head-on overlap of orbitals. While for the p bond, it is formed by sideway overlap of p orbitals. So how can we distinguish whether it is a single bond, double bond, or triple bond? So kindly take note that if it is a single bond, it should have one sigma bond, okay? If it is double bond, it must have one sigma bond and one pi bond. And if it is a triple bond, it must have one sigma and two pi bonds, okay? Kindly take note of that. Let's have the sp3 hybrid orbitals and the structure of methane and ethane. So we have the sp3 orbital. So in sp3 hybridization, 1s and 3p orbitals combine to form four identical orbitals. Okay? Kindly take note of that. You must have 1 s and 3 p orbitals that must be combined to form a four identical orbitals. Okay? So the geometry of this combination is what we call tetrahedral. Okay? And a good example for this sp3 hybridization is the compound that we called methane and ethane. And the chemical formula for the methane is CH4. And for the ethane, it's the C2H6. Okay? Kindly take note of those. So on this picture, it explains how the carbon atoms or the carbon bonds in methane and ethane using sp3 hybrid orbitals results in single bond and tetrahedral molecular geometry. Next, we have the sp2 orbital. So for this one, we have the ethylene as an example, okay? So in sp2 hybridization, we must have one s and two p orbitals that must be combined to form three hybrid orbitals, okay? Again, we must have one s and two p orbitals that must be combined to form three hybrid orbitals. So one unhybridized p orbital forms a pi bond. Okay? So a good example for this one is the ethylene, wherein the molecular formula of ethylene is C2H4. Okay? Kindly take note of those. Next, let's have this image. So on this image, it shows the sp2 hybridization and explain the structure of the ethylene, or also known as the ethene, or in chemical formula, it is the C2H4. So what it is? So it illustrates how the 1s orbital and the 2p orbital of carbon combine to form 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. And 1p orbital remains unhybridized on each carbon atom. So in short, this diagram explains how the sp2 hybrid orbitals create a carbon-to-carbon double bond, wherein the content of this one is one sigma bond and one pi bond in ethylene, resulting in a planar molecule with 100-degree bond angles. So next, let's discuss this image. So in this image, we have the ethylene as a sample. So in ethylene, each carbon atom undergoes the sp2 hybridization. Then after that, it will form three sp2 orbitals that is arranged in trigonal planar geometry with a 120-degree bond angle. And then after that, two of these orbitals will form a carbon-hydrogen sigma bond, while the other one will overlap with another carbon sp2 orbital to form the carbon-to-carbon sigma bond. And the remaining unhybridized p orbital will overlap sideways, creating the pi bond. So together, the sigma bond and the pi bond will form the carbon-to-carbon double bond, making the ethylene planar. And also, it will restrict the rotation around the bond. Let's have the sp hybridization, wherein we have the acetylene as an example for this one. So in sp hybridization, one s and one p orbital combine to form a two hybrid orbitals. So the structure is just a linear lang. Okay? So an example, as mentioned a while ago, it is the acetylene, or the C2H2 in chemical formula, which contains a triple bond. Okay? Still under the sp hybridization. Okay? So our sample in here, or the compound that we have in here, is the acetylene. Okay? So in acetylene, each carbon atom will undergo the sp hybridization. Then after that, it will form two sp orbital that point in opposite direction, giving a linear geometry with a measurement of 100-degree angle. So the one sp orbital from each carbon that will overlap to form a carbon-to-carbon sigma bond, while the others will form a carbon-to-hydrogen sigma bond. And the remaining two unhybridized p orbital on each carbon are perpendicular to each other and overlap side by side with the p orbitals of the other carbon, forming two pi bonds. Together, one sigma bond and two pi bonds create the carbon-to-carbon triple bond, which makes the acetylene linear and rigid. Okay? So this image illustrates the sp hybridization and the structure of the acetylene. Okay? So the diagrams explain how the one sigma bond and the two pi bond form the carbon-to-carbon triple bond in acetylene, resulting in a linear and rigid molecule. Still under sp hybridization. Okay, so this image shows the sp hybridization in carbon, and also it explains the orbital arrangement in acetylene. So the diagrams explain why acetylene has a linear shape and a carbon-to-carbon triple bond made of one sigma bond and two pi bonds. Still under sp hybridization. Okay, so this figure illustrates the sp hybridization and the complete bonding structure of acetylene. And this diagram explains why acetylene is linear, rigid, and it contains a strong carbon-to-carbon triple bond that was formed through sp hybridization.